Good evening and welcome. Tonight is Monday, August 10th, 2020. It is four of our council members are appearing virtually. Would all please join in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I didn't officially say it, but we will call the meeting to order. That'll make Barb a little happier, I think. First thing on our list tonight is the agenda. Are there any changes or corrections or additions to the agenda? If not, is there a motion to approve?
Ed will make a motion to approve.
Emily will second.
Ed 1, Emily 2, all in favor of the agenda as written, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda is approved. Next, we have the minutes from our July 27th, 2020 meeting. Those minutes appear on pages 5 through 8. Are there any changes or corrections to those minutes? If not, is there a motion to approve?
This conference will now be recorded.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry about that.
Okay. I'm sorry, I missed out. Who? There was a motion.
This is Shannon Noel.
Okay, all right.
I will move
Okay.
approval of the minutes.
All right.
Ed will second it.
Shannon 1, Ed 2. All in favor of the minutes as written, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Those minutes are approved. Next, we'll address visitors. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to the council on any agenda item? Seeing no one, is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to the council on any matter whatsoever? Seeing no one, we will move to the consent agenda. The consent agenda begins on page 9 and concludes with the resolution on page 24 and includes the following budgeted purchases in excess of $10,000 to Allied Blacktop for mastic asphalt ceiling for $12,240, to Pearson Brothers for more asphalt crack ceiling for $24,859.61, plus the regular schedule of disbursements for July 23rd, 2020 through August 5th, 2020. Are there any questions, comments concerning the consent agenda? All right. If not, is there a motion to approve?
So move, Mr. Mayor. This is Steve Graham.
Okay.
Carrie Johnson will second.
Steve 1, Carrie 2. Now any questions or comments? Call the roll, please, Barb.
Councilmember Ed Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Noel.
Aye.
Councilmember Carrie Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Grahams.
Aye.
Councilmember Bruflat.
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos.
Aye.
Mayor Zeman.
Aye. Consent agenda is approved. Next, we have unfinished business, which there is none. We will move to new business. And first up, we have the Kutke Holding revolving loan modification request, and Russ is here to help us out.
Yeah, Mayor Zeman, members of the City Council, in 2015, a loan was made to Kotke Real Estate Holdings, LLC. That LLC is wholly controlled by Marv Kotke. The loan was made at the time that Marv purchased the 430 Ritz Street building from the City of St. Peter, and that has become the home of Spring Touch Lawn Care and Pest Control. They had moved here from North Mankato at the time of their purchase. The total project was $1.28 million, and that included the purchase price and certain improvements to the property. At that time, the city made a $500,000 loan to Kotke Real Estate Holdings, LLC at an interest rate of 3%. The note is being amortized on a 20-year schedule, but it is due and payable at the end of the 5th year via balloon payment. At this time, the outstanding principal of the note is about $401,000, after receipt of the August 1st payment. Mr. Kotke, as was expected all along, has requested a 5-year balloon extension for another 5-year period. I can report that every single payment has been made as due, when due, and in the amount due without a single exception. EDA members Mike Faber and Corey Abels reviewed the business and personal financials that would be applicable in this situation, and they reported to the EDA that there were no irregularities or anything that would suggest that the creditworthiness of the borrower or those that provide the personal guarantee would be diminished. The EDA considered the matter at their last meeting, and they have recommended that you provide a 5-year extension of the balloon payment as requested by Mr. Kotke. At that time, and it was set up as a balloon payment so that interest rates and other matters and a financial review can be undertaken. At that time, the EDA considered the interest rate, which is at 3%, and as it would relate to the 3.25% of U.S. prime. The EDA recommended that there be no alteration to the interest rate and that it remain at 3.0% for the next 5 years. The loan will still be collateralized by the mortgage personal guarantee. And Mr. Mayor, there is a resolution that's been prepared on page 27 for the council's consideration that would reflect those terms suggested by the EDA. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you or members of the council might have.
Questions for Russ? Russ, I have a question. I know that, this looks fine, but do we require the borrower to go to their bank and see if they can, finance more or everything through their bank at this point in time? Or do we automatically just go right to the 5-year or to extending it?
Yeah, the participating bank is, I believe it's State Bank. I'm not sure what the name is, but it's out of Henderson. And given that it was originally recommended to the EDA that it be a 10-year note, the EDA recommended that it be extended for 5, and we did not request that there be a denial letter from the bank in this instance.
Okay, but that's usual standard operating procedure, isn't it? Otherwise, in most situations?
Yeah, typically, yes.
Okay, all right. Any other questions? Steve and Grams, please.
Russ, do you know, since they moved from Mankato, how their business has increased or decreased or stayed the same since coming here?
Things have continued to click along for Spring Touch. I didn't undertake the financial review. It was left to the 2 members of the EDA, but Marv Kotke reports that business is very well. He's very pleased with his decision to move to St. Peter. They haven't had much of an impact by COVID, obviously, because they're outdoors and perhaps people are wanting more lawn care services as they're home to enjoy their property. So, I can't specifically say, sales are up X or down X, but I believe they are up. And again, Mr. Kotke represents that he's very pleased with his decision to move to St. Peter.
Okay. Anyone else? Just in case it's not a big deal, they moved here, Steve, from North Mankato, actually, is where they moved from. So just
Okay, thank you.
yeah, if somebody's
Sorry if I misspoke.
watching, we didn't steal a business from Mankato. Any other questions at this time? The resolution modifying the terms of the revolving loan previously provided to Kotke Real Estate Holdings Spring Touch Lawn Care appears on page 27. Is there a motion for approval?
Ed will make a motion to approve.
Carrie Johnson will second.
Ed 1, Carrie 2. Any questions at this time? Call the roll, please, Barb.
Councilmember Noel,
Aye.
Councilmember Carrie Johnson,
Aye.
Councilmember Grams,
Aye.
Councilmember Bruflat,
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos,
Aye.
Mayor Zeman,
Aye.
Councilmember Ed Johnson.
Aye.
Resolution is approved. Thank you, Russ. Next up, we have an assistant library job description, and Joey is here to help us out tonight on this one.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. I am with you this evening seeking approval for the updated position description of assistant library supervisor. This position description was discussed last week at workshop with the changes and modifications and then slight adjustments that we put forth. As you recall, this position is currently open due to the promotion of Brenda McHugh to library supervisor. And it is my hope tonight that if approved, that we would then start our regular recruitment process through the city for this position. The job description is attached in your packet on pages 29 and 30. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
All right. Questions for Joey? Carrie?
I just noticed, I think Shannon may have mentioned this last week, but under minimum qualifications on the second point, it says 2 years demonstrated experience in activity. That's just an error. Put a space between in and activity. We want activity. Thank you.
We do that. That's correct. We will get that corrected.
Okay. Anyone else? All right. The resolution with the one change that was going to be made, the resolution adopting the updated assistant library supervisor position description appears on page 31. Is there a motion for approval?
Emily, so
Noel.
moved.
Noel will second.
Okay, Emily 1, Shannon 2. Any more questions or comments at this time? Call the roll, please, Barb.
Councilmember Carrie Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Grams.
Aye.
Councilmember Bruflat.
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos.
Aye.
Mayor Zeman.
Aye.
Councilmember Ed Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Noel.
Aye.
Resolution is approved. Thank you, Joey. Next up, we have the 2020 North 3rd Street improvement from Scarrow to Livermore project acceptance. And Mr. Moulton, please.
Mayor Zeman and City Council, as you guys are aware, back in April, you guys authorized Nielsen Construction to complete work in conjunction with city work along that project. You had authorized a total project cost of about $275,902.75. We were able to finish that project just a little under, about $3,838.87 under. It was a well-planned and designed project, and things went as scheduled. The guys are getting good at what they're doing here, and we had a lot of good help from Bolton and Mink on the design and preparation of this project. We were able to then pave the road ourselves and get the curb backfilled. And what we're asking tonight is that you accept the project as complete and authorize us to make final payment in the tune of $163,170.65. There's a resolution on page 34 that we're asking you to approve.
Okay. Questions? Pete, I have a question for you. We came in under budget, and you just mentioned that we did the paving. Was that part of the budget, or was that something that we our input, or is that something we moved from somewhere else?
No, that was part of our original scope, Mr. Mayor. Nielsen was not responsible for that. He was responsible for storm sewer improvements, curb gutter, sidewalk, intersection improvements. We always budgeted, we had budgeted, I should say, in our street maintenance program for the asphalt and other work there.
Right, great. Good job, Jeff. Domris? Any other questions, comments? The resolution accepting the 2020 North 3rd Street improvement from Scarrow to Livermore project and authorizing final payment appears on page 34. Is there a motion for approval?
Ed will make a motion to approve.
Emily will second.
Ed 1, Emily 2. Any other questions at this time? Call the roll, please, Barb.
Councilmember Grams.
Aye.
Councilmember Bruflat.
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos.
Aye.
Mayor Zeman.
Aye.
Councilmember Ed Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Noel. Councilmember Noel.
Aye.
Councilmember Carrie Johnson.
Aye.
Resolution is approved. Next up, we have Mr. Moulton again for the Veterans Memorial Park Playground Improvement Project. Pete?
Again, Mr. Mayor and City Council, Veterans Memorial Park playground improvements were authorized in the spring of this year. We were fortunate enough to get one solid bid on that project, Nielsen Concrete. They came in with a price of $71,426. As we mentioned during the time that the council authorized this project to go ahead, it was our intention to work with the contractor to try to reduce the scope. Our ideal goal was to get it down to about $50,000 to assist with cash flow issues within our parks department. We were able to reduce the scope about $13,947, roughly 20%, down to about $57,479. So what we're asking you tonight to do is to accept the project as complete and authorize final payment to Nielsen Construction at the tune of $57,479.
Okay. Questions? All right. There are no questions. The resolution accepting the Veterans Memorial Park Playground Improvement Project and authorizing final payment appears on page 36. Is there a motion for approval?
Carrie Johnson will move.
Is there a second?
This is Steve Grimes, Mr. Mayor, second.
Carrie 1, Steve 2. Any questions at this point? Call the roll, please, Barb.
Councilmember Bruflat.
Aye.
Councilmember DeVos.
Aye.
Mayor Zeman.
Aye.
Councilmember Ed Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Noel.
Aye.
Councilmember Carrie Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Grams.
Aye.
Resolution is approved. Next up, we have a wheel loader purchase, and Mr. Moulton again.
Mayor Zeman and City Council, we're here tonight from the wastewater utility to ask you to authorize the purchase of a new 2020 524L. I made a mistake in I put the used unit number on the top there, but it should be 524L John Deere wheel loader from RDO Equipment in Mankato. The trade-in of the current unit is a 444H. And so what we're looking at is a difference in the purchase amount of $117,503. The loader that exists with us today was purchased new in 2002, so it's been with us for the duration of the plant. It's been working in hazardous conditions. We had hoped that it would be worth a little bit more than it is, but we have seen some deterioration in the electronics of the unit. It's just really rough conditions with the high ammonia concentration that it works in. The existing unit that we have would be $150,000 minus the trade-in. We did get the most trade-in value from the RDO manufacturer, thus bringing the lowest price in at $117,503. Our request tonight is that you authorize that. We did budget $70,000 in our wastewater funds, with the remaining balance of $47,000 coming from our reserves in the wastewater utility. And you do have adequate funding within the reserves there to make this happen.
Okay. Questions? Carrie?
Pete, aside from operation and maintenance during the wastewater treatment process, is this used for other public works activities?
Yeah, it is when needed. Right now we use it for snow removal around public works. We can use it for loading of sand and other materials here at the shop when needed.
And this is a question from a constituent.
Yep.
What is the horsepower?
Oh, boy. I know I don't have the folder here off the top, but I can get you that information.
Okay.
It's equivalent to the old unit.
Thank
I'm
you.
going to guess about 140.
Thank you.
Pete, I don't know if they wanted to know how many horsepower. Maybe they just wanted to know what horsepower is.
Oh,
Forget
I can
it.
go into that too, I guess.
All right.
It's 152 horsepower.
Hey,
Oh, okay.
all right.
Ooh, that was
I was
quick.
just Googling it. Way to go, Pete.
All right. Any other questions? Steve?
Pete, you know, maybe Sally could answer this. What's the cash balance right now in the wastewater fund?
I do not have that at home with me, Stephen. I can get that for you tomorrow.
Yeah, if you could just send me an email, that would be fine, Sally. I'm just curious, that's all.
If I can,
Thank
though,
you.
I don't know the exact number, but the order of magnitude is slightly over $1 million.
Right.
All right. Brad, you got a question?
Just a quick question. Do you know, Pete, can this dig deep enough into a resident's yard to dig out some gophers, or what do you? And would it be available for personal use?
It would dig deep enough and no.
All right. Any other questions? The resolution authorizing the purchase of a new John Deere wheel loader and with the trade-in appears on page 39. Is there a motion for approval?
Noel will move.
Ed will second.
Shannon 1, Ed 2. Just for reference, I did not refer to the model numbers since they don't appear in the resolution. It just gives the years, so that's should be sufficient.
Gotcha.
Any other questions? Call the roll, please, Barb.
Councilmember DeVos.
Aye.
Mayor Zeman.
Aye.
Councilmember Ed Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Noel.
Aye.
Councilmember Carrie Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Grams.
Aye.
Councilmember Bruflat.
Aye.
Resolution is approved. Thank you, Pete. That concludes our new business. Next up, we have reports. Don't have a thing to add, Todd, so it's up to you.
Mayor members, the first report that I have relates to COVID-19. As you know, since we've declared the emergency, this has been a regular report at your workshops and at your council meetings. Rather than going through the entire list that I've utilized before, I know the biggest issue that has had discussion relates to the pool. And so Joey Schugel is still on the line here to be able to talk about the pool just a little bit. So I'll turn it over to Joey, and then I just have a few other minor comments that I'll make related to COVID-19 in general. So Joey, if you talk about the pool just a little, that would be wonderful.
Sure, Mayor and council members. As you know, the pool did close for the season yesterday, Sunday, August 9th, due to a staff member testing positive for COVID-19. As we presented a plan with you at the beginning of the summer, we put numerous safety measures in place, and myself and pool manager and all our staff, had extensive training and went through the process with that, and I believe we carried it out very effectively for the summer and everything. But with weighing the timing of this positive test, along with some staff training that we had, staff in close quarters, just due to the type of training we were doing, we felt the best decision was to close the pool for this season to mitigate any potential exposure with additional staff or the public that could potentially come in contact with that. So I'd be happy to answer any questions that you do have. And go ahead.
All right, questions for Joey. Carrie?
Joey, did you get through all the swimming lesson sessions, or were some of those cut short?
So we were in our last session of swimming lessons, and we were halfway through that. So what we did for those individuals was we did give them a 50% refund for their swim lesson session. They did get 5 classes in if they attended all 5 last week. So we did do a good number of swim lessons for the summer, and then we're leaving that up to those parents. Then they can identify that swim lesson that their child was in. If they feel that the skills, for instance, if we're going from level 3 to level 4, and they feel their child is ready for level 4, we would not stop them from doing that just because they didn't technically complete level 3.
Thank you. Yeah, we did swimming. We didn't use open swim, but we did swimming lessons this year with both our kids. And I can just say that everybody was following the plan. And unfortunately, you know, this happens, and it's hard to control what happens outside and who we come in contact with. So it's unfortunate, but I appreciate everyone taking these types of precautions, and I think it's a good decision to close early.
Anyone else? Questions for Joey before we let him go again? All right. Oh, Emily.
Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question, Joey. Is there any risk of the staff person having come in contact with anyone? I know that COVID has like the 2-week downtime sometimes before symptoms, and so is there any risk of that staff person having come into contact with the public?
Yeah, so what we did is myself and pool manager looked at our prior schedule, and then our pool manager, Nicole Rowland, has been in close touch with the individual, and we're just going over day by day of their shift that day and what they're responsible for. And MDH and the CDC are saying, you know, it's within 6 feet of contact for 15 minutes or more. And in that instance, there really wasn't. So to say, you know, direct exposure would come directly from that individual, it'd be pretty hard to do that. You know, I'm not going to say it couldn't happen, but there weren't situations other than with other staff that the public would have been exposed at our swimming pool.
Okay.
Thank you, Joey.
Okay. Brad.
On the question of other staff, have any other staff been tested? Todd's email mentioned that a couple might have been symptomatic. Could you elaborate on anything going forward from that?
Yes, so we have had other staff that has went in for testing. I am aware that one negative has come back so far out of those testing. And Todd may have more updates than that, but for right now, that's what I'm aware of.
That's all that I'm aware of as well.
Oh, go ahead. Thank you.
Did everybody hear Todd's response? He isn't aware of anyone else. I don't know if everybody, it's kind of got cut off. Any other questions? Shannon.
Hi, Joey. I just was wondering what your takeaways are, how the season went, what you learned, and how that will inform programming moving forward into the fall.
Yeah, great question. So what I learned is you know, the public was very receptive to a lot of our procedures with the communication we put out. And I was, you know, just going into this where we had to do reservations and had to do things a little differently with getting people into programs or into facilities. We really didn't see a spike in people coming in to ask questions or a ton of phone calls. Yes, we did get phone calls, but I was really anticipating more. And people use the online tools that we have, which was really nice. We didn't have much pushback when we're wearing masks in locker rooms and things like that. So that's also a positive to draw from it. And we know that we have to, when we're doing things, and not so much in relation to the pool, but some of our other programming, that there's a huge value to doing things in person and having that in-person programming, and there's safe ways to do that. But we also know that the virtual option is really taken on in a certain part of the community, and the community's embraced that. We're just kind of walking that fine line on, you know, over utilizing virtual, but also having a nice mix of in-person. So I think those are some of the biggest things we've learned so far.
Thanks, Joey.
Anyone else? Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yep.
on COVID reports,
Yep.
I just want to mention a couple other things. First of all, relative to City Hall and mask wearing and people paying their utility bills, that continues to move along appropriately, and we've had very little difficulty in that. Joey might be able to speak to this one a little bit too, but the community center, open gym, use of the track, I think has been at levels, frankly, maybe, at least from my perspective, a little bit more than we anticipated, but folks have been very respectful of each other and utilization of the facility. So I don't know, Joey, if you have a brief comment about community center before I finish off with one other item on this.
Sure. Again, quite a big change with the way open gym has been handled in the past compared to now during post-COVID and then with COVID regulations. So people have to come in and then sign in and reserve a spot, and there's limitations on how many people can be in the gym. And then that has all went pretty well. But we've had a little more utilization and it's picked up as we open the gym. You know, we've opened the gym about three and a half weeks ago. And the track, again, has been very respectful. There's a mix of people walking with masks on and without masks on. We ask that when you come in the building, you're walking through the building with masks on, but once you're exercising, people have the right to not wear their masks based on the executive order from the governor, based on their exercise levels and that, but we've seen a mix of that. So, so far, things have been good. We're going to look to increase community center hours here coming up in September. So you'll see some publications on that coming up very soon.
From my perspective, Mr. Mayor, members, the real key is that most of the people that we encounter and that utilize your facilities have been just very respectful of each other. And that goes a long way to make sure things flow smoothly. So really proud of our community for a lot of that. The last one that I have, Mr. Mayor, is just other than the pool discussion related to positive testing, we have had no other positive tests that I'm aware of within your employee group. And I thought that might be worthwhile and interesting for the council and the public to know.
Okay. Ed, you had a question?
Yep. Joey or Todd, whoever wants to answer this, is the track and gym sanitized daily then, or twice a day, or?
Yeah, so track and gym are sanitized daily. Normally, it's a normal protocol to do that in the morning before we have high traffic or people in and out of the building. It's the easiest time to get things done.
Okay, thanks.
I have a follow-up to that. What, and I'm serious, what was our protocol before, before all of this?
So before the gym was scrubbed every other day.
Okay.
Now it's being scrubbed every day. The track was closed down Tuesday mornings for deep cleaning, and then scrubbed once a week. Now we're scrubbing it every day, and it's still closed down Tuesday morning for that deep cleaning.
All right, thank you. Anyone else before we move to the next item? All right, Todd, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I do want to provide an update on electric charging stations. Some of you may have noticed near the co-op that work is being undertaken, so I want to turn it over to Pete, if I may, for him to give you an update on charging stations, where that's at. So Pete, if you would.
You're muted, Pete.
Thank you. That was my best line you guys missed. As you guys know, the construction is going on at the food co-op, and that is going really well. We do have a lot of the conduit and primary cable in place for the stations to be done. We are working with Aid Electric. They have done EV stations at several of the SIMPA communities that we're currently working with. So we're hoping within the next 2 to 4 weeks, we've got some stations popping up, and you'll be able to see those and get an idea how that all works. Sally and Jason and myself did meet virtually with the Zeph Energy people and talked about timelines to activate, getting the computer set up, connected with Wi-Fi, and then establishing rates. And what our goal would be is to get a little bit of that information, come back to the council and talk to you at workshop and let you know how everything looks there. They do have a standard rate package that they're offering as one of our packages, and we'll discuss that at workshop.
Okay.
As soon as we're done on the food co-op, we plan to move over to the Nassau Street parking lot 2 location and begin that operation.
All right. As long as we have Pete here, any questions for him at this point? Brad?
Pete, just a question. After these are done, are there thoughts of reaching out to other members of the business community, whether restaurants or other retail outlets, to see if they'd be interested in putting in charging stations?
We will do a little bit of that. The situation that we're in right now, Brad, is that we want to get an idea of how much use there is. Because it isn't easy to put these in just any location. We want to really look along the corridor where we already have in place 3-phase primary cable. And so that does limit some activities in certain areas or makes it cost prohibitive. And we do want to reach out and talk. When we originally did this work, we had identified about 7 to 9 potential sites, and we'll kind of go from there and raise those back up and discuss that.
Thank you.
Anyone else for Pete? All right, Todd, back to you.
Mr. Mayor, the last one that I have for you from a report perspective is the Census 2020 reminder. This week throughout Minnesota, census workers are starting to knock on doors, and so they will knock on doors and they have IDs and all kinds of things to demonstrate they're from census. So if you did not fill out a census, either online or a paper version, and send it in, that's what triggers them to knock on your door. So we would hope that you would welcome them and provide them the information. You know, everyone that's counted in St. Peter, every person is worth about $15,000 over the next decade. So we want to make sure that we get everyone counted. The U.S. average right now for census reporting, according to the Census Bureau, is that the U.S. average is about 63.3%. In Minnesota, about 72.5% of folks have responded. And in St. Peter, we're just over 76%. So we're doing better than the state, but we got to get everybody. And so we really want to encourage people to open your door and visit with the census folks as they come and knock on your door. Again, they are folks from this area. You might recognize the person that comes to your door even who does census because they hire in local area. And so please respond to that. They'll be doing that over the next month or so. Make everyone count. That's what census is for.
All right. Any questions for Todd on any of these things? Shannon.
Todd, I'm wondering, based on maybe on last census, how much do we anticipate the door knocking is going to increase our percentage?
I do not have a good answer for that. I will try and gather some information on that. We haven't looked at it from that perspective. We've really been just measuring and promoting and informing folks about the percentages and where we're at relative to the state and relative to our neighbors to the south.
Thanks.
Anyone else? In case anybody ever tells you you're worthless, that's not true. You're worth $15,000 if you answer the census. So
Every
get
10
some
years.
perspective. Yeah,
It's
for
important
10
to all
years
of
at
us.
least. Anything else, Todd?
No, Mr. Mayor, other than the request for an executive session, a closed session related to a land purchase. And so that resolution's in your packet, Mr.
All
Mayor.
right. Before we go to that, is there anyone that has any other questions on something at this point, or anything they'd like to add? Brad?
Actually, I have a question, and it's probably more up Barb's alley. Since we've got her online, I figured I'd ask this question related to elections. Barb, I know there's multiple options for the absentee voting. One, and I believe one is that you could actually drop it off at the county, and I know the county is handling. You mentioned they handle the general election. Is there an opportunity that if the city would be willing to offer a spot up for a second drop box, not at the county facility? Do you know if that would be an option for absentee ballots?
I do not know, but because they handle it, the decision would be made by them. The request would have to be made to them. I'm not sure that they are willing to do an off-site thing just because of ballot security issues.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else have anything they'd like to add before we ask for the resolution to go for closed session? All right, the resolution we will not be coming back into regular session except to adjourn. We are not going to be making any resolutions or decisions on our closed session. So at this point, the resolution calling for a closed session to develop or consider offers or counteroffers for the purchase of sale of real estate or personal property. Specifically, this one is for located at the intersections of County Road 20 and 15. That resolution appears on page 40. Is there a motion for approval?
Ed will make a motion to approve.
Okay,
Noel will second.
okay, we got Ed 1 and Shannon 2. Any questions? Call the roll, please, Barb.
Mayor Zeman,
Aye.
Councilmember Ed Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Noel,
Aye.
Councilmember Carrie Johnson,
Aye.
Councilmember Grams,
Aye.
Councilmember Bruflat,
Aye.
Councilmember DeBoss.
Aye.
Resolution is approved. Therefore, we will go to recess, and as I mentioned earlier, we will come back into open session just to adjourn after the discussions that we have. So everyone that is not needed, thank you